Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. It's time for our weekly mod collection demo shop recap video. This week we had a few cool players grade models show up in both of these shops. Nothing that really blew my socks off that I needed to buy to document, but a few cool interesting pieces. Starting with the mod collection series, we have this 50 standard Goldtop. It's still available as of the time of recording this for a $100 premium. What is different about this? Well, it looks like we have black tuners on it, and we have two different sets of knobs, the amber bonnets versus the golden bonnets. So that's interesting, but it's mainly the pickups besides the black hardware that make this different. I'm not sure what they did, but they took these designs from the Hummingbird pickguard. So if you're not familiar, a Hummingbird is an acoustic model from Gibson, and the Hummingbird comes up to these little flowers and drinks from it. So they've just ported this design and put them on the pickup cover somehow. And from far away, it kind of reminded me of that Epiphone signature guitar that's really strange. The Rob Flynn baritone signature Flying V, because these pickups were also multicolored. That one's like a cow print, and this one's just completing the skull that's on the front of that. That is one of the strangest Epiphones. But hey, it's a baritone, so I think one day I need to document that. I love what they called it, hummingbird pup covers. Okay. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of this technology used. Like, did they really just cut up a pickguard and put it on there? It's not quite clear from these photos. Next up was a Les Paul Traditional from the mod collection. I mean, to be honest, there's not a lot to talk about this one. They just put purple pickup rings, and I thought it was interesting that it had a satin blueberry burst finish on it. Not so much of a blueberry burst though, like you can just see a very, very faint purple layer at the top and then it fades out into the blue, but that's really just closer to a blue Les Paul in my opinion. But being a satin finish, I bet that would play pretty well. This 60s Les Paul Standard, I just wanted to share it with you guys because I thought that was a really nice top with this very dark finish. Like that's a little bit darker than normal, I think. And it was offered at a pretty sizable discount, $400 off. Kind of a similar story with this 50 Standard, just a beautifully dark heritage cherry sunburst finish and a pretty nice top. Especially up here by the poker chip, that just looks exceptionally nice right there. I think it's the black plastics that bring out that really dark cherry look to this guitar. Next up, we've got this 335, very similar story here. It just has a really cool top to it. Like, it's got the mixture of wood grain with flame in it. Like, the wood grain almost looks like legitimate flame, like, you know, an actual fire, especially right up here. And of course, they Bigsby'd it out and put gold hardware on there too. That helped it sell. Now this Firebird, at first glance, I wasn't that impressed with it. I was going to skip it. Because to me, it looks like all they changed were the color of the pickup rings and they took the pickup covers off of this one to give it a different look. But if you look closely on this headstock, I think they gave that like a smoke burst finish. Like you can just barely see it here. Maybe I'm just seeing reflections of light, but if they did in fact do something special with the headstock, then that one was cool. And then this 50 Standard started life as one of the P90 versions, but they gave it one of their toaster P90 pickups and a mini humbucker, strangely enough. Kind of an interesting combination of pickups on that with the black hardware. But now for the most interesting ones this week. We had a Silver Sparkle Les Paul Axcess. The photos almost make this look like a satin finish, but I think the lights just weren't directly shining on this, so it looks a little bit darker. It certainly looks like a gloss finish to me, and it might even have a color change effect to it. Like you can almost see like the oil slick effect right here when you look at this close-up of the Floyd Rose. And this 68 Les Paul Custom got a antique sparkling burgundy finish, which essentially means they just put a yellow lacquer over top of it instead of the regular clear one, just to kind of make it look aged. And that looks great with that gold hardware. They even put the gold numbered witch hat knobs on this, which is a real seller for me. And they did the same thing for the back on this one. And it might seem strange to call a 335 Studio a crown jewel of the collection. I just thought this was cool. $1,600, it's got the satin finish, but it still has binding. Like, this thing looks so strange and out of place. I like it. And the back just looks so rustic. It's that satin finish once again. I think this one had a maple neck if I remember the specs correctly. It had its own vibe going on. Pretty cool. And wait a minute. A faux white binding stripe? It's fake? I'm confused. So did they just expose some of the maple top? Is that what they did? Man, they don't have any close-up photos of that. Yeah, whoever bought that one, I would love to see some additional photos. Because it's either that or they just took like a sticky tape or something and put it on the top. I was fully convinced that was real binding. That's why that thing looks so cool. But the absolute coolest one featured this week was the TygerMyst Les Paul Custom Axcess. Which, if this is the coolest guitar featured this week, yeah, that kind of shows you there wasn't a lot. So essentially what happened to this one is they had a slightly blemished Axcess Les Paul Custom in this Burst finish. You can find it on their website. It's a pretty cool looking finish, right? But they've had quite a few of these in the demo shop before, so they must have a handful of these, and they wanted to do something different. So in stops the paint department. All they did was put like a transparent white finish over top of what they've already done. And I gotta say, I do like this result. And the other thing I really liked about this one is it's an Axcess, right? But it's a stop bar Axcess. So if you don't like Floyd's or any type of trem system like me, you get all the benefit of a Les Paul Axcess, but without that. These are some of my favorite guitars. If you want to check out a review and demo, check out my Rhino Les Paul. I'd be interested to see how this idea would look over top of other finishes. Maybe we'll see them do it, maybe they won't. It only took about a day to sell this one at $4,700. That's everything out of the mod shop. Now let's cover the demo shop here. First up here, we have a Silverburst. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk too much about it. I was just flipping through this one. I was like, yeah, they took the pickup covers off. We have one of these pretty much every week. But I specifically wanted to look at the back of the headstock to see how they bursted it. And I was like, yeah, nice. That's a good burst on a Silverburst, in my opinion. Sometimes they get a little bit too crazy. But then it hit me. Excuse me? Schaller tuners? These things originally shipped with Grover tuners, but in the spirit of an original 70s Silverburst, or 80s for that matter, they typically had Schaller tuners. Now, not this style, it was this style, and they didn't have these Schaller tips that you find here. They had the keystones, but anyways, I thought it was a nice little touch. Then there's also another Les Paul Axcess. The thing I wanted to point out about this one, though, comes down to the headstock. So we've got the Apex head carve, right? It's kind of like a modern day volute, but look where they stamped the demo right here. I wish that is where it would be for every model because I think it looks so good. More so akin to like the old factory second stamps from the 70s and 80s. It just looks good by the serial number. Nobody's ever going to miss it. Because normally they'll put it right here, but let's say some unscrupulous seller only provides you a photo of this half of the headstock right here, you're not going to see it. I mean, there's some collectors that might not want a demo version of a guitar or a mod version. They might only accept pure Gibsons. It's too hard to tell if this is going to devalue the guitars in the future. I think we're starting to get to the point where there's so many of them on the market, a negative connotation might be applied to them in the future. But this is a fairly new program so far, and people are enjoying it. So as of right now, they generally are stamped right here. But obviously they can't do that because this one has the volute, but I think that looks so much better. But then I got to this Flying V Custom. I mean, it's a cool guitar, but I only wanted to talk about this. It gets it right there too. It looks so good. So this one doesn't have the volute though. So why? Why is it there and not here? Do they do that differently for the custom shops and I'm just not recognizing it? I don't think so, because sometimes you find them stamped this way or that way. I guess we'll have to see how that goes. And our next one is this 58 Explorer Reissue. So what makes this one different from the Carina ones? Well, it's a mahogany body. But the reason I wanted to show you guys this one, not necessarily because of the wood grain, it's all about the headstock. Remember in my Carina Explorer video, you can check that out right here if you don't, how I said a lot of these custom shop reissue Explorers just look terrible in my opinion because of the headstock. This is one of those ones that I'm talking about. The logo's just not placed in the right location in my opinion. It needs to be tilted up just a hair and moved a little bit over because right now it's not quite following the curve of the headstock. It's just like following if there was a straight line. In order for this to look good, it needs to be tilted a little bit more and moved over just a hair because there's just a little bit too much dead space over here and I can never get along with an Explorer that looks like this. Now it's time to move on to what sold very quickly. The TygerMyst guitar was definitely one of those ones that really stood out in this collection, but this one I think is the true #1 MVP of the entire week because it's so strange how much work they put into this guitar. It started life as a 1954 Les Paul Standard reissue in a vintage original spec finish. So that means it would have looked like this. I don't know if it had the flame top or if it started as a black or not, but it had 2 P90 pickups and a wrap tail piece. But they installed the ABR1, they put the stop bar tailpiece. They routed it out for humbuckers. Like, geez, do they not have enough 58, 59, 60 reissues already? This has such a unique story to it. Like, there are so many modifications that went into this thing. It doesn't make sense why they did it. They don't have enough Raptail custom shops. There must be a Gibson employee in the mod shop that's like, I hate Raptails. So they did all that work. Now that I've seen the back, they definitely refinished the top into black as well. So add that to the work order. This is one of those guitars I think it'd just be fun to own because of the story of everything that Gibson employee did to it. That's my favorite one from this week. Next up, a Lefty Silverburst. I figured I'd share it because you don't see too many Lefty Silverbursts out there, and it was a fairly attractive price point. But the other thing was, look, they did the Schaller tuner thing again. And then this traditional blueberry burst. That's a nice one. Like, it's got so much going on for it. It's got a little bit of a deeper purple border up here. You remember what I was talking about earlier this episode? And it's accented by these purple pickup rings. Kind of unique that they uncovered the bridge pickup and it matches with the custom style pickguard on here. The white knobs, they do that a lot, but it's really that top that accents all this. It's kind of an interesting mix of colors on this one and a sweet blue back. And now we have a Lefty Tobacco Standard. I'll be honest, I don't know why I saved this one to talk about. Oh, there it is. It's kind of got cool neck figuring on the back. Like, it's not flame figuring necessarily, but you can tell that is going to dance a lot in the light. But that's not overly apparent from this back photo. You really got to get zoomed in there. This SG Standard, it looks pretty cool with the red pickup rings. It really just like makes it look like there's no pickup rings at all. You just have a tenon cover. Oh, that's interesting. No pickguard ever installed on that one. Okay. ABR1 bridge, uncovered pickups. Yeah. It just looked kind of cool to me. But whoa. That's just a regular 61 style guitar, so that's a Phobr one. That's strange. How did it get out of the regular factory without being drilled for a pickguard? And they put MHS pickups in here. So that's the old style that they would put in like the ES Les Pauls. So the Memphis Historic Spec is what it stands for. So that'll actually sound pretty interesting. And at $14.99, not the worst price in the world. This one, Gibson did another one of those, let's just take the top finish off of it and put a clear coat and call it a day. Somebody wanted it. Oh, and then this thing, another 335 Studio, but I could appreciate this one because, I mean, look at the burst. It looks nice, right? But then you go to the back. The fact that the neck is still black, generally, I don't like that as much, but for this finish, it just works. It's like a burning fire that's already decimated the entirety of the rest of the instrument. It's just burning down right here. I don't believe that was any type of custom fancy paint job. It's just something I'd never noticed before. And then this classic kind of threw me for a loop. So normally these classics look like this. They have the cream plastics, the zebra pickups. But this one, they went for straight black pickup covers, all blacked out hardware, tiny little knobs. It nearly made this look like a Ferrari red finish. Like you can't actually see through the finish, but you can. If you look really closely, it's the same finish. You can see through to the wood grain, but blacking that out completely changed the look of this thing. And then the other thing about this one was, it looks like this might be the new Gibson case. My first impressions, please do not start issuing these cases with everything. Maybe like the cheaper guitars, but this looks like a cheap aftermarket garbage case, in my opinion. It looks like one of the Chinese-made ones, mainly judging by this. The Chinese-made cases that Gibson uses always has like a plastic bit over top of it right here that looks like it's sewn on, but it's not. I mean, Gibson gets cases from Costa Rica, they get them from China, there's the TKL USA-made ones, as well as Canada. So if you think your Gibson USA is coming with a USA case, generally that's not true. Sometimes it is, but more often than not, you will be getting either a Canadian, Costa Rican, or Chinese-made case. I remember when I first figured that out, I was like, whoa, I thought Gibson was all about being USA-made. Their guitars, yes, not necessarily the cases. I mean, all the classic Gibson cases were actually made in Canada. So, good information to know if you watch to the end of my videos. And to end today's episode out, we got an ES-235. You can check out my review and demo if you're interested. This one, the top, it was okay. It's got the cool inlays. It's an interesting model. I highly suggest trying one of these. But for me, everything about this one was cool on the back. Something about this spoke to me. It's not the heaviest flame I've ever seen. It's not the nicest flame I've ever seen. It just has a certain character and vibe to this whole guitar. And with that, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.